Hey, good evening, everyone. Meteorologist Zach Batten for the Bell Park Weather Network. Happy Friday. Glad to see everyone made it through the week. Sorry this video is a little later than I kind of wanted it to be. We were having some last minute discussions with our team here to kind of get all of our thoughts into a video for you this evening. You'll also find a detailed post over on our Facebook. So if you're more of a reader than a listener, go check that out. It'll feature a lot of the same stuff you're going to hear here. I might go a little more in depth, but we'll see. But things have continued to shift through the day. So I didn't want to put out something this morning that would be well outdated by now, because things have continued to shift through the day. So I wanted to try to wait kind of as late as I could to get, the most recent and most hopefully accurate data that I can, so we can get that out to you before things start falling overnight and kind of through the day tomorrow. So let's go ahead and take a look at your current alerts so you can see where winter weather advisory has been issued for parts of southern Ohio. So more than likely, this will probably expand kind of to the east and northeast as more data continues to come in. And the fact that we have kind of just this blob of counties under an alert currently really kind of hints at still some of the uncertainty floating around. So this area is kind of where it's more certain that we're going to see especially some travel impacts through the early morning tomorrow and then kind of through the day as some of that snow does continue to fall. The rest of the area is more uncertain, and that's where things have kind of continued to bounce around through the day. And I'll kind of go over some of that here shortly, but expect these probably to expand. We'll see where, but my guess is they'll expand a little bit east and north to account for some of the snow that's going to continue to fall. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our model data here. So this particular model I'm going to show you, it's the 3-kilometer NAM, so it's the high-res North American model, and it's kind of one of the afternoon runs. The evening run is not super in yet, but this model, I think, does an okay job at kind of representing what we're thinking, and I'll explain some of the caveats as we go through this. So obviously this was 2 p.m. today, so it was a quiet day today. It was actually pretty nice. We saw a fair bit of sunshine. Things warmed up okay, so it was a fairly nice day out there. So here we are, midnight now. You can see some of that rain, a little bit of mixed precipitation, and then the snow moving in from the west. As we continue to go through the overnight and into the early morning on Saturday, you see the snow, especially on the northwest up here, is really going to start to dissipate as there's going to be some dry air overhead here in our northwest portion of our region. That's really going to not allow the snow to fall much, if at all. To the south and southwest here, southwest Ohio, southeast Indiana, this is where things will be interesting. So snow is expected to be falling. You see some of this mix right here. How long this mix hangs around is still kind of a question. There's going to be a small, it looks like a brief period of time where there might be just enough warm air aloft to melt some of those snowflakes and make a little bit of sleet. So we'll see kind of how that plays out. But again, it's expected to be relatively short-lived. And as you can see, by just about lunchtime here, most of the area is seeing snow. This line here that straddles just about the Ohio River is something we almost always have to deal with when we get winter systems, especially that come in kind of from the southwest like this. So we get what's referred to as kind of the warm wedge. So you can see basically this wedge of rain coming into West Virginia, and that is basically just warmer air aloft, so higher up in the atmosphere, that causes the snow to melt into rain, and then there's not enough cold air at the ground to refreeze and make sleet or anything, so you just get rain. So what's kind of been shifting around today is where this warm wedge ends up. So it's shifted a little bit more to the northwest kind of through the day, so that means areas along the Ohio River in the mid-Ohio Valley are kind of in what we're going to refer to as the battle zone. So the area between your snow and your rain. So central Ohio folks, you know this, it's typically around I-70. That usually ends up being the battle zone when we get systems that kind of come in from the west and the northwest. So in this case, this system is kind of coming in from the southwest. And really, if we zoom out here, we might be able to see, or might not, because this is not the clearest map. Our area of low pressure is actually going to be out here. So, and out here is Virginia, North Carolina, and eventually it's going to go off the east coast. So, originally it looked like, earlier this week, and when you may have seen some of the maps that were a little more bullish on the snow and really just kind of hyping things up, they had, at that time, the maps had a low pressure coming right up here through Virginia, so through the Charleston area, up to Morgantown, and eventually right around the West Virginia-Pennsylvania border. It kind of fizzled out, and a lot of its energy got transferred into the system of low pressure that's going to be moving up the East Coast. So as we went through the week, we saw where it didn't really look like that low pressure, this far west was going to develop, and it was mostly going to be the low pressure just moving up the East Coast. So where we've kind of settled is a little bit in between. The low pressure will still be a little bit further west inland, but it won't be this far west. So that's kind of why snow totals aren't looking as high, as maybe some of the maps you saw earlier this week. And that's kind of the reason we didn't put anything out, because systems like this, that's not super uncommon. We get a lot of shifting, especially more than just a couple days out. And you see even today, 24 hours out or less than 24 hours out, we're still seeing that shifting. So that's kind of, why we don't like to put things out that soon. So if we continue on here, we move, by 3 o'clock or so, a lot of that snow is now in eastern Ohio. You still see some of that rain hanging out in West Virginia. And as we continue on through the day, that snow moves out pretty quick. Some dry air works in. And you see, really, it's just kind of some leftover snow showers that move in kind of behind. And then overnight, we get a little bit more energy. It's going to have to battle some dry air, especially early in the day Sunday. But eventually, we do see some more snow to fall during the day Sunday. And that'll add to the accumulations a little bit, but not expecting necessarily as much Sunday as you might see Saturday. There's still some shifting, so if that warm wedge shifts northwest, that will cut into the snow totals in southeast Ohio and maybe push some of the heavier snow to the northwest a little bit. Or if somehow the cold air manages to win out, which doesn't typically happen in this neck of the woods, then we might see some higher snow totals kind of to the southeast and into the mid-Ohio Valley. The warm air in these situations typically wins out. That's kind of climatology suggests that the warm air normally wins out in this area. So that's kind of what we're leaning with, and the models are kind of supporting that. So I think we're going to be okay there. And then again, by really Monday morning, just some leftover snow showers, but the bulk of things have moved out. So let's go ahead and take a look at your snow totals here. So this is kind of what we're thinking. So you see our confidence level at 60%. So we're feeling okay about this. But like I said, if you take a look at the mid-Ohio Valley and into West Virginia, you see kind of the swath there of 2 to 4. And then you've got a zone of 1 to 3. So this is where we're thinking is going to be the transition from the heavier snow and then border that warm wedge that we mentioned. So that's why in most of West Virginia, you're looking at less than an inch or so, because you're going to be under that warm wedge. And then you're going to have the transition from the warm wedge to the colder air, and that's where you get your 2 to 4. And in that transition zone, you'll likely see 1 to 3. For most of the rest of the area, we're looking at 1 to 3 as well. This is, again, through Saturday morning through Monday morning. So this isn't just for Saturday or just for Sunday. This is kind of encompassing the entire system, as it's easier just to kind of do it that way, as it still really is more or less one system. That's just kind of 2 pieces of the same system. So ultimately, Northwest Ohio and Northeast Indiana, not expecting too much. Like we mentioned, the dry air is going to win out for most of the day Saturday. So outside of some flurries or maybe a dusting, not expecting much to stick there. Most of the snow that they're going to see is going to be Sunday when some of that snow does move in. We'll probably get a coating to maybe an inch at most in most locations. So this is kind of what we're looking at. We are still watching our next system, and that's coming in on Tuesday. And if I can pull this up in a timely manner, what I kind of want to do is show you the active pattern that we're in. And I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to find out together here. So give me just a minute here. Doing this on the fly because I think it would be fun to show you guys. So I'll kind of explain what we're looking at here, because this map is not my favorite. I don't necessarily like the way that it's displaying this. So we'll see how this works. So what we're looking at, this is the American model, the GFS. This was also one of the afternoon runs. The evening run should just now be coming out. So what we're looking at is pressure. So we're trying to identify our high pressures and our low pressures. So you can see this afternoon, we were dominated pretty much by some high pressure out over the lakes. You can see this purple color off to the right, which you may not actually be able to see. Off the coast of Canada, really, there's a low pressure. And then you see where some of the blues and the greens transition into some more of the purples. That's where you get your low pressure. So what we're going to do is loop this, and you're going to be able to see the areas of high pressure and low pressure, and fingers crossed the lines come back. I don't know why they disappeared. There they are. Nice. So let's go ahead and move this along, and you can see the low pressure now off the East Coast. So kind of off of Jersey there. That's part of this weekend system. A bit stronger of a system, you see, moves in off the mountains through the southern plains, and then that one moves right up in our neck of the woods. And you can see the deep purples that really give you an idea of how strong this system is. It's a good bit stronger than what's going to be impacting us this weekend. The biggest difference is you see where that low pressure is sitting over Lake Erie. If we back that up a frame, you can see we're in eastern Indiana. Right now, most of the state looks like it's going to be in rain. So it's going to be heavy rain. It's going to be probably pretty breezy too. It's a strong system. So what we're watching is particularly kind of the northwest portions of the area to see, once again, where that rain snow line sets up. So that's something we're keeping an eye on. We'll have updates on that through the weekend, and then we'll have another update for you Monday morning as we'll be a little closer. We'll have a lot better data by then. But what I really want to get at here is that system moves out. You can see already another system swinging down from British Columbia into the southern plains, and then right up in our neck of the woods again. And then following that, we get a break, and then another system you can see kind of off the east coast there moves through. So really what we're in now is it's an active pattern. So you get storm kind of after storm after storm, and the tracks of course will vary, the strengths will vary, but we're in kind of that pattern now here in January where seeing these storms is not not surprising, shouldn't be super shocking. So what I want to also look at is temperatures, because we back this all the way up. In addition to this cold pattern, or the stormy pattern rather, we are looking at the potential for some cold in the next couple weeks. So we're gonna move this along, and you can see some of those purples and then the kind of the grayish, greenish looking colors up there in Canada moving into the northern plains. You see we're on January 12th at this point. The polar vortex has kind of entered a weakened state. So this is allowing that cold air to really start to take over and move into the mainland US. So what I want to show you is, if we back up a little bit, if you look there in Illinois, kind of the Missouri-Illinois border, you can really see that storm system that looks, to potentially move through around the 12th. So it'll be next weekend. That system moves through, and that really opens the door for some of that cold air to really work its way in. I mean, you can see that nice bulge there of cold air. We don't know how far east that cold air is going to get or exactly where it's going to set up. Really, all this is telling us at this point is that the polar vortex has, kind of finally weakened, and we're entering a period where we will likely see our coldest weather of the year. How cold it gets, how long it stays cold, and where that cold air ultimately sets up is still a question. But I want to just kind of walk through that with you so you can see what we're looking at as we go, into the next few weeks. So active pattern, cold weather. We'll take one more look at your snowfall totals for this weekend. Again, this is Saturday morning through Monday morning, so kind of encompassing both, little shots of snow that we're expecting this weekend. It doesn't look like it's going to be a huge deal. There very well could be some areas that overperform, especially if that warm air doesn't hang out as long. So we'll kind of be watching for that, or if that warm air, fades a little quicker, we get some of that less sleet. That could lead to a bit higher snow totals, but I think right now we're feeling pretty good about where we're at. Of course, we'll keep you updated through the weekend. If, we need to make any changes, we'll post updated snowfall maps here on YouTube, probably via post unless something significant changes and we do a stream or something like that. But you'll also be able to check us out on Facebook if you're over there for, the most updated posts and all that fun stuff. So with that, I thank you all for hanging out with me, this Friday evening. Hopefully you all have a great weekend. If you have to travel, stay safe, all that fun stuff. We'll see you back Monday morning with kind of a recap of what ended up falling this weekend, which is kind of, very good verification for us to see how we did, but also just kind of, take a look at where things ended up in general. And then, of course, we'll have updated information about your system coming in Tuesday and who may see rain, who may see snow, or if we'll all see rain. So that's kind of where we're at for now. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you all Monday.